Text is a huge part of After Effects. There's so many things you can do with text, it'll make your head spin. If you've seen animated text in television advertisements, there's a pretty good chance it was made with After Effects. So to do all those cool things, you first need to know how to create text, and I'm going to explain how to do that in this lesson. To follow along, just open up After Effects and we'll make a new project from scratch. Let's just start a new composition. I'm going to accept the most recent composition I worked on, which is HDTV, 10 seconds with a white background. I like a white background when I work with text. You can choose any color you want. There we go. Now we're ready to create some text. There are a couple of ways to make text inside After Effects, as you'd expect. You can create a new text layer, or you can work with the Type tool. We're going to start with the Type tool. Now the Type tool is right up there. Before I click on it, I want you to look at a couple things. Right there, there's nothing there except for some grayed out tools there. On the right-hand side, you got the Preview panel and the Effects and Presets panels. But watch what happens when I click on the Type tool. A couple things show up. You've got these guys show up here, this little button, which is toggle the character and paragraph panels. You got this checkbox for auto-open panels, and you've got these two panels over here, character and paragraph. That's because this checkbox is selected. Those guys opened up. And if you want to turn them off for a moment, you can toggle them off like that or toggle them back on. With the checkbox not selected, then you need to open these guys up manually, or click on this guy, or go to a different workspace called text, oddly enough. But here we are. Now we're ready to go. Got the Type tool selected, and whatever I type here will take on the characteristics of the font and other things over here. Let me show you that a little bit better. I'll lift that up just a touch there, and then you can see all the various characteristics there. I want to go to Times New Roman just as a starter. So I click in here to highlight that and type in Times, and then it'll go right there. So now if I click here and start typing, I'll start putting in some text with the Times New Roman font at 170 pixels. That might be kind of large, but we'll see what happens here. Now notice I've got this little dotted line box around that little I-beam. That means that it's waiting for me to click someplace to then start typing. That box will go away when I click, but that little cursor, that I-beam, stays present. Now this is going to be the size of the type that we're going to put in here. The little red line means that I can take this cursor and put it anywhere I want. I'll just start typing and it'll go right there. So here is some text like so. Now if I want to stop typing, let's say I'm done with that line, I need to press the Enter key on the numeric keypad, not the Enter key on the regular keypad. I'm going to press the regular Enter key and just goes down a line, looking for more text. And some more text. So now to finish typing, I can press the Enter key on the numeric keypad, or I can click on the text layer down here, right there. A little bit easier to click down here. Notice what happens when I do that. The text there becomes the name of the layer. Also notice that the anchor point is right to the lower left of the first letter you typed. No matter how many lines you type, the anchor point will be right there. You can always move it, of course, but that's the default location. Now I see a bounding box around the text, and that happened because I clicked down here in the text layer, or when I clicked on the Enter key in the numeric keypad. But if I hover my cursor there, I can't move things around because I still have the Type tool selected. See how that little I-beam shows up there? The I-beam is saying that if I click anywhere here, I can put a cursor in there and type some more, a little more text, and I can delete that, something like that. So if I want to move things around, I need to select that bounding box again by clicking down here. And now I can move them around if I go get the Selection tool, or if I hold down the Control key in Windows, Command key in Mac, just hold it down. That temporarily turns on the Selection tool so I can move things around like that. All right, whatever's inside the bounding box there can be changed by changing the characteristics over here. If I just select, let's say, a word, then I can change the characteristics of that word or a letter or whatever. But with the whole bounding box selected, then I can select everything. I'm going to click on the text layer, and that'll put the bounding box back around there. So let's just change the size of the font. We can just drag it left and right there using the scrubby, making it larger or smaller. If I want to change the tracking spreads things out like that. If I want to change what's called the kerning, I need to actually select a character because the kerning affects only two characters side by side. So let's say I go and click on the SO there, for example. Then now this thing comes on, it becomes visible. I can slide those two characters closer together. This is a little bit of typography. If you really want to do some fine tuning to your text, you can use this. This is the leading. Leading is the distance between the lines. Let me go select the text again, and we'll change the leading here. There you go. Pull things closer or not. There we go, like that. We can also adjust the paragraph settings. Right now I've got left aligned text. If I click on the right aligned text, it's going to kind of jump. That's because the anchor point is going to stay right there But everything else is going to slide over to the left because the anchor point will now be on the right side of the text. If I click there, there's the anchor point now, and everybody's lined up on the right. Click on the center, the anchor point goes to the center and lines things up. But the anchor point doesn't move relative to the frame here, just so you know what's going on there. It's not like your text just disappeared. It's just that the anchor point caused the text to move while the anchor point stayed rooted in this spot. I'm going to go back here to the default, though, left align. If I want to change, let's say, italics or bold, you can do that in one of two ways. It depends on the font you choose. If the font has built-in weights like italic, bold, and bold italic, then you can change them here, which is better than changing them down here. I'm going to go back to regular here. These guys are so-called faux italic and faux bold. There's faux bold, just makes things thicker. Faux italic just puts a little slant on it. The actual italic here, which is built into the font, is intended to look different, not just a slant. So your choice, but usually you want to go with whatever's available here. If you want to change to a different font, I'm just going to click here to make that active. I can press the up arrow or the down arrow just to kind of scroll through all the fonts that are available on my system. Whatever collection of fonts you have on yours, then they'll show up as you scroll through there. If you click this drop-down list here, you'll see all the fonts that you have on your system. Tons of them. Whatever ones you've got, they'll look different than mine. I'll type in here again. I'm going to click on something like Cooper Black, Cooper Standard, like that. I also have a kind of a thing for black oak, like so. I like that big bold look. Or rosewood. Rosewood's kind of fun. Let me go back here and type in there and highlight that, type in rose. That looks always kind of fun like that. If I'm going to go back, let's say, we'll go back to Times New Roman here. So let me just type in Times. There we go. We're back. I want to add a stroke to this text. The stroke is a border around the text. Right now we have fill. The fill is red. Down here, this little line across there says there's no stroke on there now. But I click on it once, click it again. Now I can now add a stroke to it. I'll add blue for a stroke, let's say. You can see the line showing up there already, a little stroke there. Click OK. The stroke is 1 pixel wide there. Let's make it 2 pixels. It might look a little crowded here, but we'll make it 2 pixels. There we go. I want to zoom in a bit on this. Now I can scale in, or I can use a different font size. Some people say that when you scale to zoom in on something like that, it's not as good as changing the font size. I'm not so sure I'm totally convinced of that, but here we go. I'm changing the font size here, and because of the leading, we're getting things kind of overlapping there, which is kind of cool, actually. I want you to see how the stroke works. Right now it's called stroke over fill. That's the default setting, where the stroke is on top of the fill. If you go fill over stroke, watch what happens here. Kind of covers it up in places. And if you talk about all strokes or all fills, when things are overlapping here, then things really behave a lot differently. And to see that better, I'm going to pull back for a second. Let's just go back here to where it's smaller. And I want to have these guys scrunched together a little bit. So I'm going to take the tracking and have them get kind of on top of each other like that. Now we'll zoom in a bit and see how these things look when I use the stroke differently. Right now there's the stroke. I like stroke over fill like that better, but I'm going to go down below here to all fills over strokes. That means wherever the fill exists and it's overlapping with the stroke, the fill wins. That's one way to look at things. And you may want that kind of a look. Or you go, are all strokes over fills, then, oh my gosh, if you want that, be my guest. I'm kind of one who goes for the stroke over fill. That's kind of the default look anyways. Let me pull back out a bit here like so. By the way, you can see how sharp things look. That's because I've got this set to one of these presets here. 33 1/3, 25. If I had set fit and zoomed in on it, it wouldn't have looked that nice. See how rough it looks around the edges? That's just the way that After Effects works, the way it displays things. If you have some kind of odd number like 31.2 in my case, then things don't look all that sharp. But if you accept one of these little preset distances there, 25 or go up to 33 or 50, then things will look sharp. It's not that you set something like fit. It's not going to mean that it's going to look bad when you create this video. It's just that it looks kind of rough here in your preview, if you want to call it that. So I'm going to go back to, let's say, 33 1/3 there. If you want to add more text, there's a couple of ways to do that. Let me just pull this thing back to a reasonable size so you can see things a little bit better. And we'll get our leading to kind of get things closer together here. There we go. If I just click here with the type tool, you'd think it would add it to that layer, but it's going to create a whole new text layer there. I'll undo that by pressing Control or Command Z. Or I can just add a new text layer by right-clicking here and say New Text Layer. And that puts the cursor dead center. Whenever you add a new text layer, it puts the cursor right in the middle. And just so we can see this, I'm going to change the color for the fill so we can tell that it's different. Make it green. And now when I start typing there with that new text layer, here is some text. It's green, obviously, as you can see, but it takes on the other characteristics that we had before. It takes on the tracking that we had before. Now, if I change tracking now, it won't change that because the whole text line is not selected. I click away and click on you, and we'll select that. Now I can change the tracking on that. There we go. And I can also move that around by holding down the control key temporarily and move that guy around there. Grab its corner, holding the control key or the command key, and change its size as well. All right, so there you go. That's just a basic rundown on how you can create and edit text.